Let's take a look at one of the gravest human rights violations since the regime change in Pakistan in April 2022, when former Prime Minister Imran Khan was ousted through a well-orchestrated conspiracy. Since then, the entire state machinery has been actively working to silence every dissenting voice in order to prolong this unconstitutional and undemocratic grip on power. On May 25, 2022, the government launched a brutal crackdown to suppress PTI's Long March to Islamabad, which had been called by Imran Khan to demand free and fair elections. In an unprecedented display of state violence, security forces used tear gas, baton charges, and live rounds of rubber bullets to disperse peaceful protesters, including women, children, and elderly citizens. Roads were blocked with shipping containers. PTI leaders and workers were harassed and detained in overnight raids, with reports of families being threatened and homes ransacked. 2 PTI workers lost their lives due to the unlawful use of force against the marchers. To prevent further bloodshed, Imran Khan had to call off the march. In August 2022, Dr. Shehbaz Gill, a senior leader of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, and close aide to Imran Khan, was abducted by law enforcement individuals in broad daylight from Islamabad. His arrest quickly turned into a harrowing tale of political victimization. He was subjected to severe physical and mental torture as well as sexual abuse while in custody, with reports of him being stripped naked, beaten, and denied basic medical care. Gill later revealed details of the inhumane treatment, including attempts to force him into signing a false confession implicating PTI leadership. Dr. Shehbaz Gill's driver's wife was arrested along with her 10-month-old baby to pressure him and collect evidence. The baby was cruelly separated from her mother, depriving her of fundamental rights and leaving her in distress. On October 23, 2022, Arshad Sharif, a prominent Pakistani journalist known for his fearless reporting, was assassinated in Kenya. His killing sent shockwaves across Pakistan and the international community. Sharif had fled Pakistan earlier that year due to escalating threats against his life after his investigative reports exposed corruption of the Sharif Zardari governments and the role of the military in ousting Imran Khan. He faced relentless intimidation, harassment, and fabricated legal cases, forcing him to seek refuge abroad. Before his assassination, Arshad Sharif received multiple warnings about his safety, including a direct threat to his life. In July 2024, the High Court in Kajiado, Kenya, ruled that the 2022 killing of Pakistani journalist Arshad Sharif by Kenyan police was unlawful and unconstitutional, but his family still awaits justice from Pakistani courts. On November 3, 2022, an assassination attempt was made on Imran Khan during his Tehreek-e-Azadi Long March in Wazirabad, Punjab. He was leading a massive protest march when gunshots were fired at his container. Imran Khan sustained multiple bullet injuries in his legs, while one PTI supporter was killed and several others were injured in the attack. Imran Khan accused senior government officials and a military intelligence officer of orchestrating the attack. The shooter's statement was aired on state media within a couple of hours of the assassination attempt, even before any formal investigation had been conducted. In the broadcast, the shooter was seen repeatedly changing his statements, attempting to frame the attack as a religiously motivated hate crime. This followed months of coordinated efforts by government officials and military-backed media representatives who held press conferences portraying Imran Khan as anti-Islam, fueling religious sentiments and paving the way for a blasphemy-related narrative. The shooter's confession, combined with his lawyer's press conference being aired live on national TV, proved the state's involvement in this meticulously orchestrated attack, which saw Imran Khan as an existential threat to their hold on power. In March 2023, Ali Bilal, widely known as Zille Shah, a devoted supporter of Imran Khan and PTI, was brutally tortured and murdered in police custody. Zille Shah, a special needs person, was arrested during a peaceful protest in Lahore. Hours later, his lifeless body, bearing horrific signs of torture, was discovered in front of a hospital, leaving the nation in shock and grief. His post-mortem report confirmed that he died from excessive bleeding after enduring severe physical abuse, including a fatal blow to his head. Despite clear evidence of police involvement, the authorities launched a smear campaign, falsely alleging that Shah's injuries were caused in a car accident. The authorities, in a desperate attempt to shift blame, filed a bogus FIR against Imran Khan, implicating him in the murder of Zille Shah. In March 2023, a nationwide crackdown led to the abduction of over 2,100 PTI social media activists, party workers, and supporters, including women and children, across Pakistan. These individuals were illegally detained without warrants or due process, while their families were subjected to harassment and threats. The authorities' actions were aimed at intimidating and silencing political dissent, with many detainees enduring inhumane treatment. On March 8, 2023, just hours before PTI's scheduled election rally, the caretaker government of Punjab, widely criticized for acting as a puppet of the federal regime, imposed Section 144 in Lahore. The sudden imposition of Section 144 was seen as a deliberate attempt to stifle dissent and prevent PTI from mobilizing its supporters. As peaceful protesters began to gather for the rally, police forces responded with overwhelming brutality, using tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. Women, children, and elderly participants were not spared, and many protesters suffered injuries due to excessive force. Law enforcement carried out mass arrests, targeting PTI workers and supporters to intimidate and silence them. Starting on March 14, 2023, Pakistani authorities escalated their efforts to arrest Imran Khan by launching a full-scale attack on his Zaman Park residence in Lahore, despite him submitting a signed guarantee to appear in court. The operation, which targeted his supporters and workers outside Zaman Park, involved security forces using heavy tear gas, water cannons, and rubber bullets to disperse the crowds. For 2 days, the authorities continued the siege, even resorting to extreme measures to intimidate and silence his supporters. On March 18, 2023, ahead of Imran Khan's court appearance, the government deployed heavy security forces around the judicial complex in Islamabad and cordoned off the area with containers, preventing access to lawyers, PTI leadership, and the public. However, a group of unidentified men in civilian clothes carrying plastic handcuffs were seen entering the complex without resistance. As his caravan approached, PTI workers were arrested, and the police subjected the convoy to heavy shelling at various points. The international journalists covering the event also confirmed that police began shelling as soon as Imran Khan's caravan reached the complex, which seemed to be an intentional effort to provoke the protesters and escalate tensions. When Imran Khan finally reached the judicial complex after hours of resistance and shelling, police and unidentified men were waiting, signaling a possible attempt on his life. After heavy resistance, Khan was able to enter the complex. However, a well-wisher advised him to leave, fearing the situation was a setup. Despite continuous shelling, Khan's workers quickly escorted him out of the complex. On March 18, 2023, when Imran Khan left his residence in Zaman Park, Lahore for a court hearing in Islamabad, he received the alarming news that his house in Zaman Park was being attacked under the guise of an illegal search operation. The police had no search warrant but proceeded to forcefully enter the house by breaking down the front gate with a bulldozer. At that time, Imran Khan's wife was home alone along with some house staff. The police caused extensive damage to the property, destroying personal belongings and stealing items such as food, clothes, medical supplies, and possessions of the workers, and even pet food. The police also brutally beat and arrested workers, many of whom were young boys, all without arrest or search warrants. On May 9, 2023, former Prime Minister Imran Khan was illegally arrested from the Islamabad High Court premises by paramilitary rangers in a dramatic and forceful operation. Despite being present for a scheduled court hearing, Khan was dragged from the courtroom in blatant violation of legal protocols and due process. His lawyers, who witnessed the shocking scene, later revealed that they were pepper sprayed, beaten, and physically assaulted as troops stormed the room by smashing windows and doors. Khan himself was hit on the head, forcibly pulled off his wheelchair, and violently dragged away. On May 11, 2023, the Supreme Court of Pakistan issued a landmark ruling declaring Khan's arrest illegal and unconstitutional. The court reaffirmed his fundamental right to due process and ordered his immediate release while directing authorities to ensure his safety. Following Imran Khan's illegal arrest on May 9, 2023, spontaneous protests erupted nationwide with supporters demanding his immediate release. PTI called for peaceful demonstrations across the country, urging people to gather in large numbers at designated points. However, the situation took a drastic turn when reports surfaced of deliberate acts of vandalism targeting sensitive military installations, including the Corps Commander's house in Lahore and the GHQ entrance in Rawalpindi. Eyewitness accounts and video evidence indicated the involvement of unidentified individuals orchestrating these attacks, raising suspicions of infiltration. PTI leaders and supporters alleged that the state had planted saboteurs to discredit the party, justify a violent crackdown, and suppress Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Security forces resorted to deploying tear gas, water cannons, and straight firing during confrontations with Imran Khan's supporters. Several protesters were martyred, with around 16 PTI workers and supporters confirmed dead, and thousands were injured across the country due to shelling and direct firing by security forces. At least 10,000 people were arrested, including those who didn't even participate in the May 9th protests, but were supporters of Imran Khan. The state confiscated CCTV footage of the incidents, but never presented it in court as proof, further proving that this was a state-led false flag operation designed to frame PTI and its supporters. Women associated with PTI and supporters of Imran Khan faced unprecedented brutality and repression aimed at discouraging their political participation. occupation. Security forces were seen humiliating, beating, and dragging women by their hair for attending peaceful protests. Hundreds of women were detained in various jails under appalling conditions with little to no access to their families. Among those detained were elderly women over the age of 80 and mothers of very young children. Many women reported being interrogated by police, who repeatedly questioned why they dared to leave their homes, attempting to intimidate them while discouraging their participation in politics. In numerous cases, male officers were involved in the arrest and manhandling of women political prisoners, often without the presence of female constables, violating basic protocols and human rights. Using the May 9, 2023 protests as a pretext, the government orchestrated a crackdown on PTI leaders, abducting many and coercing them into leaving the party. Despite no evidence linking PTI leaders to incitement of violence or vandalism, they were detained illegally without any proper investigation. While courts ordered their release upon review, they were often re-abducted immediately upon stepping out, with police and unidentified men orchestrating these unlawful arrests. Leaders were only freed on the condition that they disassociate from PTI and announce their departure in scripted press conferences implicating Imran Khan on May 9th attacks on military installations. Many of these leaders appeared visibly distressed, with some tearfully citing threats to their families, particularly their children, as the reason for their decision, highlighting the pressure and danger they faced. Leaders who agreed to leave PTI were released without any further investigation or court proceedings, exposing the unlawful nature of these arrests and the helplessness of the judicial system in the face of such coercion. Imran Khan termed these departures as forced divorces. In contrast, those who refuse to abandon PTI or deliver scripted press conferences remain in jail to this day, even after 2 years. Following the regime change operation, the crackdown extended to journalists and media houses that dared to present PTI's perspective and expose the injustices and state-led fascism against Imran Khan and his supporters. This campaign aimed to control the narrative against Imran Khan and his party while swaying public opinion away from him. Multiple journalists and media outlets faced severe repercussions for reporting on state brutality and offering coverage favorable to PTI. Many prominent journalists were forcibly taken off air for revealing the truth about the regime change, while countless others were abducted, illegally detained, harassed, and subjected to torture. These oppressive measures were designed to suppress press freedom and silence those who challenged the state's authoritarian grip on the media. The government extensively utilized state media and official platforms to propagate relentless propaganda against Imran Khan and his party, from baseless accusations of blasphemy which endangered his life to orchestrating campaigns over fake corruption charges like the Toshakhana and prohibited funding cases. The narrative was manipulated to tarnish his reputation. After the events of May 9, the media was weaponized to falsely declare PTI as an anti-state party and label its supporters as terrorists. Government officials, aided by the military and ISPR, conducted press conference after press conference, spreading lies about Imran Khan, his family, and PTI. Bogus cases such as the Iddat case, Toshakhana, and Al-Qadr Trust were repeatedly highlighted, even as courts overturned these charges. State and private media outlets aired marathon transmissions to push this false narrative, with national platforms even giving airtime to the shooter involved in Imran Khan's assassination attempt, allowing him to justify his actions without proper investigation. Meanwhile, Imran Khan's speeches were entirely banned, showcasing the state's blatant misuse of media to discredit political opposition. Many media houses, including Bol and AirY, and digital media platforms like Siyasat.pk, were forcibly silenced and taken off air for covering Imran Khan and his party's narrative in addition to the government's stance. Today, media in Pakistan is entirely controlled, broadcasting only the narrative of the military-backed government and the establishment. Journalist Imran Riaz Khan was abducted in May 2023 under mysterious circumstances. His sudden disappearance sparked nationwide outrage. Despite repeated court orders for his recovery, the authorities failed to provide any information about his whereabouts, heightening concerns about his safety. For months, Imran Riaz Khan remained missing, leaving his family in anguish. Finally, after mounting pressure from national and international bodies, he was recovered in September 2023. Upon his return, he appeared visibly frail, a stark confirmation of the harsh conditions he endured during his illegal detention. He had lost significant weight and struggled to speak, needing extensive treatment to regain his health. In later interviews, he revealed being subjected to extreme torture and treated inhumanely. He confirmed being pressured to support Nawaz Sharif and his party, promoting their narrative exclusively. Furthermore, he disclosed that the establishment approached him to fabricate a narrative against Imran Khan, portraying him as corrupt. Even children have not been spared by the government in its orchestrated campaign to instill fear and suppress dissent. In the last 2 years, minors have been targeted in what appears to be a deliberate attempt to terrorize families supporting Imran Khan. A heart-wrenching testimony from a mother reveals that her 14-year-old son has been languishing in prison since the aftermath of the 9th May false flag operation. His only crime was expressing support for the political party of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. In another incident, a minor was arrested alongside his father while distributing sweets in public to celebrate Imran Khan's victory. Similarly, 3 children under the age of 14 were declared terrorists simply for supporting Imran Khan. Elderly and critically ill PTI workers and leaders faced relentless harassment and abduction, with their lives being put at serious risk. These tactics were used to pressure them into abandoning PTI through coerced and scripted press conferences. In one instance, a PTI leader who had just suffered a heart attack pleaded with security forces, explaining that he had surgery scheduled for the next morning and had been advised by doctors not to leave the hospital. Despite this, he was forcibly taken away by the police. Similarly, Dr. Yasmin Rashid, an 80-plus-year-old PTI leader and cancer survivor, was forcibly discharged from the hospital and taken to jail under the government's orders, putting her life in danger. Since the regime change, the military-backed government has misused the policing system to implicate PTI and its supporters in fake charges, aiming to discourage them from participating in political activities and raising their voices against the ruling parties. A series of fake FIRs and bogus cases have been filed against PTI leaders, social media activists, and ground workers to politically victimize them and force them to abandon their support for PTI and Imran Khan. Over 200 bogus FIRs have been registered against Imran Khan alone across the country, with charges ranging from terrorism and sedition to contempt of court, blasphemy, and even murder. Many PTI leaders and workers' houses were raided at night without arrest or search warrants. The police, accompanied by unidentified individuals in civilian clothing believed to be intelligence personnel, not only harassed family members but also destroyed property and looted valuables to exert pressure on them. They would break cars, furniture, and in many cases demolish entire houses to punish those supporting Imran Khan and PTI. Several PTI leaders reported that authorities illegally sealed their businesses, attempting to blackmail them into leaving the party. Mia Aslam Iqbal, former senior minister of Punjab, described the ordeal his family faced at the hands of the military-backed government. 30 to 40 people entered his house and began harassing his family, including his 85-year-old mother, who requires oxygen. The police took everything valuable, including his daughter's dowry, just days before her wedding. He also mentioned that many of his family members' homes had been raided multiple times to pressure him. Post-regime change, Murad Saeed, a former federal minister and leader of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, PTI, faced multiple threats to his life. In May 2023, he wrote a letter to the Chief Justice of Pakistan expressing concerns over the bogus cases and life threats he was facing. Much like Arshad Sharif, agencies are targeting him for speaking out against injustice, his support for Imran Khan, and his efforts to bring peace to his province, which has endured military operations over the years, causing widespread disruption and loss of life. Post-regime change, a huge number of PTI leaders who were arrested in politically motivated cases were mistreated and kept in barbaric conditions, violating their basic rights. Many were denied the right to meet their families, and they have been subjected to inadequate food, sleep arrangements, and medical treatment, particularly concerning for those over 60 who require urgent care. Former federal minister Shahryar Afridi was confined to an 8x8 death cell and denied any access to his family. Due to the appalling conditions, his health deteriorated. Afridi was abducted from his home after midnight alongside his wife, who is terminally ill. Former governor of Punjab and senior PTI leader Umar Sarfraz Jima was kept in similar dire conditions. Despite doctors advising immediate surgery for his shoulder, which caused him unbearable pain, the jail authorities ignored court orders and denied him the necessary treatment. His wife was also arrested to put pressure on him, despite having no involvement in politics. The abducted and illegally detained PTI workers have shared numerous stories of both mental and physical torture during their detention. One such worker, Zakir Mardan, recounted his ordeal of being abducted, tortured, and humiliated simply for supporting Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. Another passionate supporter, Zille Shah, tragically died due to extreme physical torture in police custody. Many workers, upon their release, shared similar stories of mental and physical torture, with authorities pressuring them to testify against Imran Khan and to stay silent after their release. Under the fascist government, there has been a disturbing increase in the release of private audios and videos as a tool to blackmail PTI leadership and workers. The Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act 2016 prescribes a penalty of up to 3 years in jail or a fine of up to 1 million rupees, or both, for making unauthorized videos and pictures. However, the government blatantly violated this law. PTI Senator Azim Swati's private video with his wife was leaked to pressure him into abandoning PTI, while another PTI leader, Kamal Shahzab, had a fake video leaked to threaten and and intimidate her, putting their families under extreme distress. Following the events of May 9, 2023, many female PTI supporters reported being verbally abused, threatened with rape, and labeled as bad women by police officers simply for participating in political activities. In one shocking video clip, a police officer was seen verbally abusing a woman and her family, unzipping his pants and showing his privates while arresting her. These incidents show the desperation of the regime and its bureaucracy to suppress political dissent, particularly targeting women, as the vast majority of them are supporters of Imran Khan. In January 2023, Imran Khan dissolved the provincial assemblies of Punjab and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa as part of his political strategy to force early general elections in the country. This move was constitutionally valid, as Article 224 of Pakistan's constitution requires the appointment of caretaker governments following the dissolution of assemblies. These caretaker governments are tasked solely with overseeing free and fair elections within 90 days. However, what followed was a blatant violation of constitutional principles, as the caretaker governments in both provinces exceeded their tenure and remained in power beyond the mandated 90-day period. The Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, supported by the federal government, postponed elections indefinitely. This was done to keep PTI out of power, as surveys indicated overwhelming support for Imran Khan in these provinces, predicting a landslide victory for him if elections were held. A well-known human rights activist and lawyer, Gibran Nasir, was abducted by unknown men in June 2023. Nasir has been a vocal critic of Pakistan's military and was also advocating for the unlawfully arrested workers and leaders of PTI after the May 9th false flag operation. Nasir was later released after immense pressure from the public and human rights organizations. In October 2024, another human rights activist and lawyer, Iman Mazari Hazir, was taken away by security forces and men in plain clothes and masks from her home in the early hours of the morning. Her mother, Shiri Mazari, Pakistan's former human rights minister under the PTI government, shared the news in a post on social media. Moments before her arrest, Mazari Hazir had posted on X about unknown persons breaking down security cameras in her home and jumping over the gate. Mazari's mother later confirmed that no arrest warrants or legal procedure had been followed. Pakistan's media regulator, PEMRA, imposed a complete ban on the broadcast of PTI chairman Imran Khan's live speeches in August 2022. On May 31st, 2023, PEMRA issued another directive to media houses, clearly instructing them that Imran Khan's name should not be mentioned, his image should not be shown, and his voice should not be heard. Even a mention of his name on the channel's ticker tapes was prohibited, which constitutes a blatant violation of the right to freedom of speech. Using the events of May 9th as an excuse to suppress PTI and its supporters, Pakistan's military-backed government established military courts to try protesters arrested during the May 9th protests. These courts violate Pakistan's constitution and represent a significant human rights violation due to their lack of transparency and the absence of fair trial. In December 2023, Pakistan's Supreme Court approved the trial of civilians in military courts, thereby paving the way for the prosecution of civilians. This judgment faced criticism from political leaders and human rights groups, both locally and internationally. The arrest of PTI leader Mia Ibad Farooq following the events of May 9th, 2023, had a devastating impact on his family. His 8-year-old son witnessed the traumatic arrest of his father, mother, and grandmother, along with multiple raids and acts of vandalism by the police. The child was admitted to the hospital in serious condition, but due to the pressure exerted by the state because of his father's affiliation with PTI, he was forcefully discharged. Tragically, this innocent child, unable to bear the distress, passed away after waiting for nearly 3 months for his father to return. Many other children of PTI leaders, workers, and supporters endured similar trauma as a result of the state's oppressive actions. Repeated police raids and harassment of PTI families left countless children and minors in a constant state of emotional distress. Many PTI leaders and workers were forced into hiding after the government launched a brutal nationwide crackdown on PTI, resulting in the arrest of thousands. As courts began releasing them due to a lack of evidence, the state resorted to abducting PTI leaders, workers, and supporters, and even journalists and reporters. Many of these individuals were abducted and subsequently went missing for months. Enforced disappearances became a strategy to instill fear, discouraging support for Imran Khan and his party. These missing persons faced a high risk of torture as they were placed completely outside the protection of the law. Many shared horrifying stories of torture and harassment upon their return. The courts seemed powerless in retrieving these missing persons, especially given the involvement of intelligence officers in plain clothes and police, as evidenced by CCTV footage provided by the families of several missing persons. Over the course of of 2 years since the regime change in April 2022, approximately 100 people were abducted, including PTI leaders, lawyers, senators, workers, social media activists, journalists, reporters, and supporters of Imran Khan. PTI leaders who were abducted re-emerged on different private news channels, delivering scripted statements against Imran Khan, accusing him of the events of May 9th, even though he was incarcerated at that time. These individuals appeared visibly shaken and in poor physical condition. Their families had filed abduction cases, and legal proceedings were underway in courts to secure their recovery. Many of these leaders faced unfounded charges of vandalism and terrorism and were declared as wanted. However, following their scripted interviews, all charges were dismissed and they were released without any further court proceedings. Imran Khan has been denied his fundamental right to a fair trial. He is being incarcerated under bogus cases with biased and controversial judges of questionable backgrounds, denying him any semblance of justice. According to the observations of multiple court reporters, many of these judges would receive written orders from the powerful military establishment. They were pressured to expedite Imran Khan's conviction by holding marathon court proceedings that went late into the night, which were later overturned by higher courts. Despite the constitution providing the right to file an appeal for case transfers and elevation to higher courts, Imran Khan has been denied this recourse. Numerous cases have been delayed, with some judges reserving their verdicts for weeks. Imran Khan was also kept in jail based on a bill that never received presidential assent, rendering it unconstitutional and illegal. Special courts were set up without passing the bill, and court proceedings were moved to Adiala jail, kept secret, and closed off from media coverage. When Imran Khan's legal team challenged these proceedings in court, the judge denied their request. Furthermore, Imran Khan has not been presented in court for other cases in which he is required to appear to secure bail. On August 5th, 2023, former Prime Minister Imran Khan was convicted in the bogus Toshakhana case by the controversial judge Humayun Dilawar, who sentenced him to 3 years in prison and imposed a 100,000 rupee fine. Imran Khan was convicted in this case based on a flawed judgment delivered by a biased judge who denied Imran Khan the right to a fair trial. The conviction, which followed a fast-track trial, was widely seen as politically motivated by analysts and legal experts, as well as Imran Khan and PTI. The trial lacked due process, and Khan's legal team asserted that the proceedings were tainted by irregularities and influenced by external political pressures, particularly from the military establishment. There were numerous legal questions surrounding the court's jurisdiction to hear the case, including the fact that the 120-day period prescribed by law for scrutinizing annual assent declarations by members of parliament had already passed. The defense was denied the opportunity to present witnesses, and the closing arguments were not allowed to be presented. Despite the defense team being physically present, they were marked absent, further adding to concerns about the fairness of the trial. The court moved at an exceptionally fast pace, with hearings scheduled daily. Within 15 to 20 minutes of the verdict's announcement, police were at Imran Khan's residence to arrest him, and he was taken into custody in the early hours of the morning. The Islamabad High Court later suspended Imran Khan's 3-year sentence in the Toshakhana case and ordered his release from jail. The military-backed government, followed by a puppet caretaker government, denied PTI the opportunity to exercise its democratic right to conduct rallies and protests. While other political parties were allowed to hold public gatherings without restrictions, as soon as PTI announced a rally, the government would swiftly impose Section 144, which empowers the district administration to issue a ban on a specific activity for a set period. The misuse of this tool against PTI was evident in the heavy police presence in cities where public gatherings were planned. As if Section 144 was not enough to prevent people from gathering and to provide an excuse to arrest and detain them, the army was given shoot-on-sight orders to suppress PTI's march towards Islamabad in November 2024. Snipers were deployed by the army to target and shoot innocent peaceful protesters during the protest. This resulted in the deaths of at least 14 protesters and left numerous others injured. The police were even observed arresting innocent civilians, sometimes for merely displaying a PTI flag. The police, under the governance of a repressive regime, did not even spare individuals protesting against the desecration of the Holy Quran or those expressing solidarity with the people of Palestine solely because these protests were associated with PTI. The general elections in Pakistan were delayed beyond the constitutional limit of 90 days. After the dissolution of the National Assembly on August 9, 2023, elections were supposed to be held by November 8, 2023, as mandated by Article 224 of the Constitution. However, the Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, citing the need to redraw constituencies following the digital census, postponed the polls indefinitely. This delay was a tactic to deny the people their democratic right to elect their representatives, with critics accusing the military-backed regime regime of using the ECP as a tool to manipulate the political process and suppress Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI), which had widespread public support. Following the events on May 9th, hundreds of PTI leaders, workers, supporters, and vocal media persons were arrested. While most of them were granted bail by the courts due to the lack of evidence against them, the police continued to rearrest them, often in violation of court orders, and in some cases from within the court premises, which is a clear breach of the law. Some PTI leaders faced the ordeal of being arrested and released repeatedly, with some individuals being rearrested more than 7 times. These arrests and rearrests were a tactic to pressure them to disassociate from PTI and provide scripted press conferences or interviews that directly accused Imran Khan of orchestrating the attack on military installations on May 9th, 2023. It was observed that if a PTI leader or worker provided a statement against Imran Khan, they would often be released immediately without any further court proceedings. In contrast, those who did not comply were subjected to multiple arrests, alleged torture, and kept in harsh conditions until they yielded. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan and former Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi were convicted in a sham cipher case on January 20th, 2024. Imran Khan was secretly held in custody for 15 days without his legal team being informed. The FIA requested his remand without presenting him in court, and Attak jail was unjustly designated as the trial venue, violating Article 10A, which guarantees the right to a fair trial. The case was based on allegations that Imran Khan and Qureshi misplaced and misused a diplomatic cipher, despite the original document being in the Foreign Office as confirmed by the Interior Minister. The cipher, deemed a threat to Pakistan's sovereignty by 2 NSC members, was declassified by the elected cabinet, raising serious questions about the legitimacy of the charges. The case was politically motivated, aimed at disqualifying Imran Khan before the February 2024 elections, damaging his reputation and suppressing voter turnout. In June 2024, the Islamabad High Court overturned their sentences, exposing the case as a deliberate attempt to keep Imran Khan and senior PTI leadership behind bars. On February 3rd, 2024, just 5 days before the general elections, a trial court sentenced Imran Khan and Bushra Bibi to 7 years in prison and fined them 0.5 million rupees each in the highly controversial Iddat case. The case was based on a complaint by Bushra Bibi's ex-husband, Khabar Farid Manika, who had been abducted and went missing for days before resurfacing to file the case. Prior to his abduction, he had publicly vouched for Bushra Bibi's character, but his statements drastically changed afterwards. The Iddat case was widely seen as one of the most politically motivated and shameful legal attacks aimed at maligning Imran Khan's character and pressuring him into a deal. On July 13th, 2024, the Islamabad High Court overturned the conviction, declaring it unlawful and unjust, further proving the politically motivated nature of the case. In October 2023, Nawaz Sharif, a convicted criminal and absconder, was granted bail despite being sentenced to 10 years in prison and disqualified from politics for life. Legal experts were shocked by the decision, as it violated established legal norms. Nawaz Sharif, who falsely claimed illness to leave Pakistan, remained abroad for 4 years and was granted bail within 24 hours of the application being filed, even though the convict, Nawaz Sharif, was not present in the country. His biometric prints were submitted by a lawyer and accepted by the court without any objections. In contrast, the same court allowed Imran Khan to be abducted from within the courtroom while he was in the biometric room applying for bail in a similar case. This blatant judicial bias highlights how the legal system is manipulated by the military establishment to serve political interests. The Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, played a key role in sidelining Imran Khan and PTI through biased decisions and electoral manipulation. From reviving an 8-year-old prohibited funding case while ignoring similar cases against other parties, to rejecting PTI's nominations and ignoring pre-poll rigging complaints, the ECP's partiality was evident. It also failed to conduct elections within the constitutionally mandated 90-day period and installed a caretaker setup favoring PMLN and PPP. Before the February 8th elections, every conceivable effort was made to either exclude or significantly handicap PTI's ability to contest. PTI ticket holders and nominees were brazenly abducted in broad daylight by intelligence agencies. They were systematically prevented from conducting their election campaigns and holding rallies. Nomination papers of PTI members were either snatched or attempts were made to do so to prevent their lawful candidature. Access to the offices of returning officers were systematically obstructed for PTI's prospective candidates, while proposers and seconders required for the nomination process were similarly abducted before the scrutiny of nomination papers. Hundreds of candidates' homes were raided to discourage them from contesting the elections on a PTI ticket. Shocking footage of these abductions, harassment, and the snatching of nomination papers surfaced daily in the days leading up to the elections on February 8, 2024. Law enforcement agencies and the Supreme Court silently witnessed noticed these blatant human rights violations and were complicit through their inaction. Ahead of the February 8, 2024 general elections in Pakistan, a significant number of nomination papers from Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) candidates were rejected by the Election Commission of Pakistan (ECP), showing political bias and pre-poll rigging. Over 70% of PTI's nominated candidates had their papers rejected by the returning officers, compared to the nearly 90% of nomination papers from other parties, especially PMLN, which were accepted without significant issues. The rejections were a deliberate attempt to disqualify PTI's most popular leaders and supporters, effectively sidelining a party with significant public support. PTI protested these rejections, filing cases in courts to challenge them. Additionally, PTI filed a case in the Supreme Court of Pakistan under Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Issa regarding pre-poll rigging, but Qazi Faiz Issa, who was acting as a facilitator of the ruling setup, dismissed it. After regime change, and especially in the lead-up to the elections, PTI faced widespread oppression from authorities marked by crackdowns on its candidates, workers, and supporters. As PTI held workers' conventions to build momentum, law enforcement responded with severe measures, including abductions and indictments of political opponents. Hundreds of houses, offices, and businesses of PTI candidates and leaders were ransacked, and their families were harassed and intimidated. Police and intelligence agents dressed in civil clothes would barge in late at night, breaking everything, torturing the men, and abducting relatives as a tactic to create fear and discourage PTI candidates from contesting an election. In the months leading up to the elections, a systemic crackdown on PTI offices across Pakistan began. In June 2023, PTI's Karachi offices were forcibly sealed without due legal process, prompting legal action from the party's local leadership. Similarly, in December 2023, PTI's Central Punjab office was sealed again despite a court order to reopen it. As the elections approached, police escalated their actions by blocking PTI's general body meetings, encircling party offices, and sealing the election offices of candidates. In contrast, other parties, especially PMLN, were heavily supported by state machinery, allowing them to freely conduct election rallies and campaigns. Government officials and the administration provided all kinds of logistical support to these rallies. As another blatant attempt to silence dissent, the military-backed caretaker government banned PTI's official website in Pakistan without providing any valid justification. This move was an attempt to silence PTI and prevent it from exposing state-backed atrocities and pre-poll rigging. After being denied its electoral symbol, PTI launched an online portal to share candidate information along with their respective symbols to inform voters. However, this portal was also blocked in Pakistan shortly after its launch, making it accessible only through VPNs. These actions were clearly intended to mislead the public and discourage them from voting for PTI candidates. On February 8, 2024, general elections were held in Pakistan that were marred by disruptions as the caretaker government shut down the internet and mobile services, creating communication issues for voters as well as the election staff. The 8300 SMS service of the Election Commission across the country was also affected. This shutdown severely hindered voters' ability to access crucial information such as locating polling stations, coordinating travel, and reporting electoral irregularities in real time. Amnesty International called the election day internet shutdown a reckless attack on people's rights. This was all intended to discourage voters from turning out, as Imran Khan was leading in all public surveys and was expected to win if voter turnout was high. On polling day, as it became evident that voters were turning out in large numbers to support Imran Khan, systemic efforts were made to obstruct their participation. Polling failed to begin on time at numerous stations, leaving long queues of frustrated voters waiting to cast their ballots. In many cases, polling staff was either absent or intentionally delayed the process to reduce the number of votes cast. Despite these delays, polling was abruptly halted at 5 p.m. Additionally, many voters faced confusion and disorganization in locating their designated booths, often finding family members assigned to different, far-flung stations. This was a deliberate attempt by the Election Commission of Pakistan (ECP) to discourage voter participation. Videos showed polling stations being seized by military personnel, police, and officers in plain clothes. Presiding officers faced obstruction in issuing Forms 45 to PTI-backed independent candidates, while several candidates were arrested or mistreated. PTI polling agents and candidates were forced to leave polling stations during the counting process, violating electoral laws. Journalists and media personnel were barred from entering returning officers' offices, where incidents of ROs being assaulted, removed, or coerced into signing blank Forms 45 were reported. Credible sources on social media also highlighted cases of ballot papers being burned and PTI candidates being threatened to accept manipulated results. This is when the catastrophic post-poll rigging started to turn PTI's clear majority into a simple one. On February 8, 2024, Forms 45 received by the candidates showed PTI leading by large margins in many constituencies. However, discrepancies appeared when returning officers tampered with the final results on Form 47. In several cases, BTI's clear leads were overturned in the final Form 47 results. A comparison of Form 45 and Form 47 results from February 8, 2024 revealed significant disparities, showing massive rigging to turn BTI's clear majority into a simple one and giving other parties, mainly PMLN, PPP, and MQM, enough seats to form a coalition government. Despite all this manipulation, BTI stood as the leading party with the most seats in the parliament. It was evident that returning officers, ROs, manipulated election results during the preparation of Form 47. Despite BTI-affiliated candidates leading by significant margins based on Form 45 aggregations, Form 47 was prepared unlawfully in their absence, falsely portraying them as runners-up in the official results. This was a violation of Pakistani electoral laws, which required the consolidation of Forms 45 and the issuance of Form 47 in the presence of all candidates and their agents. On March 5, 2024, the ECP released the long-awaited Forms 45. However, instead of ensuring transparency, these forms exposed glaring inconsistencies and clear signs of tampering. The altered documents reveal significant changes in the number of votes allocated to candidates, raising serious doubts about the accuracy of the election results. Discrepancies between the original Forms 45 given to candidates and those later published by the ECP are particularly evident in constituencies where PTI candidates were initially leading. The forgeries were so blatant and amateurish that even a child could spot the discrepancies. Numbers were overwritten to inflate the lead of PMLN candidates, while PTI candidates' leads were blatantly crossed out. Many forms didn't even add up correctly, with totals at the bottom contradicting the individual vote counts. This was a brazen rigging attempt exposed not by investigative agencies but by the common people of Pakistan. These tampered Forms 45 serve as undeniable proof of the systemic rigging against Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf candidates in the general elections held on February 8, 2024. On February 17, 2024, Liaquat Jatta, the Commissioner of Rawalpindi, made a shocking confession about post-poll rigging in the February 8, 2024 elections. Jatta revealed a deliberate effort to manipulate the election results, admitting to widespread irregularities, particularly in Rawalpindi. He stated that PTI-backed independent candidates who were leading by 70,000 to 80,000 votes were made to lose through falsified ballots and false stamps. Jatta took full responsibility for the fraud and called for punishment for himself and others involved, including the Chief Election Commissioner Sultan Raja and Chief Justice of Pakistan Qazi Faiz Isa. Since then, the commissioner has gone missing and his whereabouts remain unknown. On February 18, 2024, Punjab police forcibly entered the home of the commissioner's private secretary around midnight. The secretary's wife, Mrs. Ashfaq, reported that plainclothes law enforcement individuals, accompanied by police, dragged her children, stole her valuables, ransacked the house, and held her extended family hostage in Lahore. This harassment was an attempt to cover up the explosive confession by the Commissioner of Rawalpindi using intimidation and threats against individuals associated with his office, orchestrated by intelligence agencies. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been unlawfully detained under inhumane conditions for more than 1.5 years, confined to a small, dark cell with an open toilet and constant surveillance in violation of his fundamental rights. He has been denied access to his lawyers, family, medical care, and basic necessities, enduring isolation and mental torment. On April 1, 2024, the government released images of his jail cell which confirmed the dire conditions he was being kept in and sparked public outrage. The pictures contradicted the government's claims of A-class facilities, which Imran Khan is entitled to as a former PM. Despite court orders, Khan was denied communication with his sons and visits from his legal team, with jail authorities citing orders from above and implicating the military establishment. In his letters to the Supreme Court on January 30, 2025, Imran Khan detailed the inhumane treatment he endured in jail. He described systemic violations of his rights, intensified mental abuse, and complete isolation from the outside world. His cell's electricity was cut off multiple times, leaving him in complete darkness and extreme heat. His movement was severely restricted. Additionally, he was given substandard food that caused severe illness and was denied access to newspapers, television, and exercise facilities. These actions violated Islamabad High Court orders, yet the officials responsible continued to act with impunity. Since the fall of BTI's government in April 2022, numerous accounts of harassment and coercion have emerged, targeting judges who attempted to deliver justice under an undeclared martial law imposed by the military establishment through its proxies. From releasing private videos to filing baseless references against upright judges and even questioning the validity of their academic credentials, the military-backed government employed every tactic to harass and intimidate the judiciary. These efforts were aimed at obstructing justice, particularly for Imran Khan, his party, and their supporters. On March 25, 2024, 6 senior judges from the Islamabad High Court penned a letter addressed to the Supreme Judicial Council detailing serious revelations against Pakistan's intelligence agencies for their interference in judicial affairs. The judges disclosed that these agencies had been exerting pressure through methods such as abducting and torturing their relatives, conducting secret surveillance in their homes, and attempting to influence the outcomes of legal cases. The letter outlined specific instances of interference, such as intelligence officials pressuring judges in crucial cases, leading to one judge being hospitalized due to stress. The letter mentioned that a judge's relative was abducted by ISI operatives to exert pressure. Additionally, it highlighted intimidation tactics towards district court judges, covert surveillance with spy cameras in a judge's residence, and efforts to manipulate utility bills and tax records to influence judicial decisions. The letter also detailed several instances of attempted coercion and intimidation by ISI officers to influence the outcome of cases, including those involving the incarcerated former Prime Minister Imran Khan. On July 1, 2024, the UN Working Group on Arbitrary Detention declared that the detention of the former Pakistani Prime Minister is arbitrary and violates international law. Their detailed 17-page report concludes that Imran Khan's imprisonment contravenes the UN Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, and the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, ICCPR. It called for his immediate release and compensation in accordance with international law. The working group also called for those responsible for violating Imran Khan's fundamental human rights to be held accountable. Imran Khan remains in prison despite all his cases being overturned. The group found that Imran Khan's prosecutions, notably in the Tosha Khana and Cypher cases, were politically motivated to prevent his participation in the 2024 general election. In an attempt to silence dissent, the government blocked access to the social media platform X in February 2024, shortly after massive evidence of rigging began to emerge on the platform, exposing the stolen February 8th elections. On February 22nd, the Sindh court ordered the government to restore access to X immediately, but the block persisted, leading to a contempt case against the authorities. Even after this, the government continued to shut down the internet during subsequent bypolls and any political events organized by Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, aiming to restrict communication and prevent people from exposing human rights violations during these events. In February 2024, BTI formed an alliance with the Sunni Ittihad Council, SIC, to secure reserved seats in the national and provincial assemblies. Despite their majority, the Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP, rejected their petition, reallocating these seats to the ruling coalition, granting them a 2/3 majority. In July 2024, the Supreme Court of Pakistan annulled the ECP's decision, declaring it unconstitutional and restoring 23 reserved seats to PTI. This decision highlighted the biased actions of the ECP, which acted as a partisan entity to ensure PTI's defeat while supporting the ruling coalition, particularly the Pakistan Muslim League. In June 2024, the military-backed regime announced plans to install a national firewall under the guise of regulating content on social media platforms, according to media reports. The government spent millions on this firewall to filter and block content from dissenting voices and online criticism, further curtailing freedom of expression. The Pakistan Software Houses Association, BASHA, stated in a press release that Pakistan's economy could lose up to $300 million due to internet disruptions caused by the imposition of the national firewall. Human rights activists expressed concerns about the firewall, fearing it would be used to suppress dissent and censor social media content. With people resorting to using VPNs to access restricted platforms, the military-backed government's efforts to stop criticism had little success. In a desperate attempt to silence dissent, the government banned the use of VPNs, declaring them un-Islamic with the support of a group of puppet clerics. This demonstrated the extreme and ridiculous lengths to which the government was willing to go to stifle voices raised against them. In October 2024, the military-backed coalition government swiftly passed the controversial 26th Constitutional Amendment Bill in the Senate, hours after it was approved by the federal cabinet and subsequently in the National Assembly. Dubbed the Constitutional Package, the bill introduced amendments impacting the tenure and appointment of the Chief Justice of Pakistan, CJP, and the evaluation of judges' performances. Critics viewed the bill as an attempt to undermine judicial independence and ensure control of the judiciary by an unlawful setup that emerged following the February 8th elections through a massively rigged mandate. United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk was concerned that the 26th Constitutional Amendment would seriously undermine the judiciary's independence. In addition to the legal community and civil society, other international human rights bodies also condemned the amendments, warning that such an attack on judicial independence directly threatened fundamental rights. Adding to the controversy, members of the ruling coalition admitted receiving the draft just minutes before its presentation, highlighting their role as mere puppets under the military establishment's influence. To pass the 26th constitutional amendment, brutal tactics and heavy coercion were used by the military-backed government and intelligence agencies. The illegitimate government, lacking the required two-thirds majority, needed 224 votes to pass the bill. To secure these votes, they resorted to widespread intimidation tactics, particularly targeting opposition lawmakers as they depended on their support to ensure the bill's passage. Members of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf faced threats, including the abduction of their family members, women and children, bribery with money and government ministries, and threats of losing their seats through the Election Commission of Pakistan, ECP. PTI lawmakers, alongside members from other opposition parties like JUI and BNP, were pressured into supporting the amendment or else face severe consequences. A few days before the amendment, one of the PTI lawmakers, Haji Imtiaz Ahmed, had his house raided by police and unknown men. His elderly mother was beaten and harassed, his young baby was thrown off the bed, and his sister-in-law was dragged down the stairs and harassed into providing information about her husband and brother-in-law, Haji Imtiaz. She confirmed that an ISI colonel, Major Omer, is directing the harassment of PTI members and their families, with the military behind these actions. In an interview following the raid, she mentioned that 25 unidentified individuals raided Haji Imtiaz's house in Mandi Bahauddin, dragging his 100-year-old mother off her bed and violently assaulting her, leaving her in poor health. She described the assailants as soldiers spreading terror and harassing them. Around 12 PTI lawmakers and 2 BNP senators were abducted as the government sought to push through the amendment at gunpoint, further exposing the coercive measures used to secure votes for the 26th Amendment. PTI lost contact with 12 of their lawmakers just days before the amendment, while the BNP head, Akhtar Mengal, confirmed in a press conference that 2 of their senators were also being threatened into voting in favor of the amendment. One BNP senator, Nasima Ehsan, had her son abducted while she was kept hostage until the amendment passed. Another senator, Qasim Rajhan, was seen being brought to the Senate in a dire state on a wheelchair, showing signs of extreme mental torture during his captivity. On the day of the session to pass the amendment, Islamabad's red zone was placed on high alert with a massive deployment of security forces, including paramilitary personnel both inside and outside the assembly hall. Vehicles from intelligence agencies and cars with tinted windows were seen entering the assembly premises, transporting abducted opposition members, including PTI lawmakers, and secretly herding them like cattle. The media was pushed out and prevented from asking any questions to the lawmakers who were forcibly brought to the assembly. Strict monitoring and checks were conducted inside the assembly by men in civilian clothes from intelligence agencies tasked with ensuring the amendment passed successfully. The military-backed regime repeatedly shut down the internet nationwide ahead of PTI's virtual rallies and political events. After Imran Khan's arrest on May 9, 2023, the government blocked access to the internet and major social media platforms, leaving millions of people cut off. NetBlocks estimated that Pakistan lost $53 million in just one day due to the shutdown. This caused severe disruptions to IT services ranging from banking to routine workflows. This pattern of internet shutdowns occurred every time PTI planned an event, during elections, and particularly after the Islamabad massacre, to hide any evidence of the atrocities committed by the military-backed regime. Reports from major cities like Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad confirmed widespread disruptions, and mainstream news outlets documented the challenges faced by citizens. In January 2024, just days before the general elections, the Supreme Court of Pakistan, led by Chief Justice Qazi Faiz Issa, stripped PTI of its electoral symbol, a verdict that meant that the biggest and most popular political party in the country will be denied the opportunity to participate in the elections, thereby stripping millions of Pakistanis of their fundamental right to vote for their preferred political party. Legal and political experts and people from all walks of life were in disbelief over the Supreme Court's decision to strip PTI of its electoral symbol and declared it a huge blow to fundamental rights. The stripping of PTI's electoral symbol, the bat, proved the vulnerability of national institutions to political manipulation. Fearing Imran Khan's popularity, they wielded the country's institutions, particularly the biased and controversial Election Commission of Pakistan, to strip PTI of its electoral symbol, the bat, with the Chief Justice of Pakistan acting as a facilitator to rubber stamp the ECP's farcical decision. From the day he took his oath, Chief Justice of Pakistan Qazi Faiz Issa acted as a facilitator for the country's powerful military and the ruling elite, particularly PMLN. His actions were consistently aimed at suppressing PTI and Imran Khan, ensuring indefinite delays in their cases, especially those concerning election rigging and human rights violations. Faiz Issa's wife publicly expressed her hatred for Imran Khan, making it evident that both she and Issa harbored personal vendettas against him. Despite these public outbursts, Issa refused to recuse himself from cases involving PTI and Imran Khan, an act widely regarded as unethical and against judicial norms. Just 1 week before the general election on February 8, 2024, Imran Khan was convicted in 3 politically motivated cases within the span of a week. These convictions were part of an orchestrated effort to build a narrative against him and discourage the public from voting for him in the upcoming elections. This was another form of pre-poll rigging against Imran Khan and his party. The legal proceedings in the fabricated Cypher, Toshakhana, and Iddat cases were a sickening mockery of justice. From obstructing attorneys to secretive jail room proceedings and marathon court hearings, justice was trampled. The rushed trials, dismissal of evidence, and oral verdicts without a signed judgment painted a picture of a compromised judicial system with a clear political agenda. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan's sister Alima Khan, along with PTI leaders, confirmed that Imran Khan was being kept in solitary confinement under strict orders from above to isolate and deprive him of human interaction. Additionally, prison officials responsible for his safety were replaced for the 3rd time, heightening concerns about his health and security. In a petition filed with the Islamabad High Court in June, Imran Khan warned that Adiala jail was being controlled by 2 officials from Pakistan's intelligence agency, the ISI, and sought judicial intervention to end their interference. Despite this, the meddling persisted and the conditions worsened under military control, further endangering his life. In October 2024, Imran Khan's situation deteriorated further as he was held incommunicado for 3 weeks at Adiala jail in Rawalpindi. During this time, he was cut off from communication with his family, legal and medical team, and the outside world, further worsening the already harsh conditions of his detention. Khan was placed in solitary confinement in a windowless cell which lacked electricity for extended periods, leaving him in darkness. This isolation lasted for 3 weeks, which is recognized by human rights organizations as a form of torture. In December 2023, Pakistan's military, in an effort to sell its May 9th propaganda, handed down sentences ranging from 2 to 10 years to 85 civilians over alleged attacks on military facilities following the arrest of former Prime Minister Imran Khan earlier that year. To date, a total of 105 civilians have been sentenced through unconstitutional military courts under the military-backed regime. Article 10A of the Constitution of Pakistan guarantees the right to a fair trial. However, these military courts openly violated this provision by operating without transparency or adherence to proper legal proceedings. Pakistan now faces increasing international isolation and global embarrassment, with strong backlash and condemnation from international human rights organizations, including the United Nations, the International Commission of Jurists, ICJ, and Amnesty International. The prisoners in military custody narrated harrowing stories of extreme inhumane treatment, including physical torture and forced confessions obtained under duress. Sami Wazir, a civilian who was held by the Pakistani military, confirmed he was tortured, stating, "They tied me up and hung me upside down. Then they released hornets onto me and I was stung repeatedly. I cried and begged them to let me go." After 20 months of brutal military custody, Sami Wazir, a 28-year-old activist from Bannu, suffers irreversible damage, a ruptured colon, severe hearing loss, and mental instability. Sami is now undergoing treatment for multiple ailments, including mental instability resulting from the torture inflicted by his military captors, marathon interrogations, sleep deprivation, waterboarding, and beatings with batons. This is how Murad Ali Khan Marvat, a lawyer representing civilians held by Pakistan's military intelligence, described the abuse his clients endured, forcing them to sign false confessions, including implicating Imran Khan in mercy petitions being submitted on their behalf, petitions that many of them refused to sign. The prisoners who signed the petitions later confirmed that they did so under extreme pressure and coercion. In May 2024, the government sealed the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) office in the capital after demolishing part of the premises with bulldozers under the pretext of a Capital Development Authority (CDA) issue. PTI, however, did not receive any prior notice or warning regarding the matter, exposing the action as a deliberate tactic to intimidate and harass the party. In July 2024, security forces stormed PTI's central secretariat. During this raid, security personnel looted the premises, leaving behind scenes of vandalism. The office staff was arrested and falsely charged with cybercrime as part of the effort to stifle dissent and dismantle the party's organizational capabilities. After the February 8th elections, sitting MNAs and MPAs of PTI faced relentless harassment aimed at coercing them into either abandoning PTI and joining the coalition or defying party directives. PTI member of the NA, Adil Bazai, was forced into joining PMLN under threats and pressure from authorities who destroyed his property and businesses. When he refused to comply and vote in favor of the ruling coalition, the Speaker of the National Assembly, a member of PMLN, disqualified him. This unlawful action was overturned by the Supreme Court of Pakistan. PTI PTI MNA Anika Hassan Mehdi went into hiding after facing severe harassment from the military-backed regime. Pressured to abandon PTI and resign, she revealed in an interview, "I'm being threatened with abuse for supporting Imran Khan. My 75-year-old father, a heart patient, was abducted and kept in illegal detention without medication. They want me to vote or resign. I've been in hiding for 2 months, unable to see my children. My constituents report widespread power and water shortages, forcing many to flee. All PTI MNAs face similar threats, with authorities warning of abductions if we don't support the government." In another episode of fascism, the female family members of PTI's MNA Saadullah Baloch were abducted by intelligence agencies. This abduction was meant to pressure Saadullah Baloch to reappear and surrender himself to the intelligence agencies, with the women being held hostage until he complied. The harassment and coercion of journalists and media personnel continued into 2024, with many losing their jobs for refusing to propagate the ruling party's narrative and for exposing injustices. Some were abducted, others implicated in fake FIRs, and their families harassed through raids on their homes. The judiciary, manipulated to serve the regime's interests, deliberately delayed hearings, ensuring that these journalists remained behind bars for extended periods. Since April 2022, the Pakistani military government and its agencies employed various tactics of transnational repression to silence overseas Pakistanis critical of the military-backed regime. These include threats and harassment of their families in Pakistan, cyber surveillance, cancelling their Pakistani passports, and targeted online campaigns to intimidate them. Dual citizens and those traveling to Pakistan risk detention, harassment, or confiscation of their passports, while embassies monitor expatriate activities, sometimes denying consular services to critics. Azhar Mashwani, the focal person for PTI's digital media, has become a symbol of the horrific abuses faced by political dissidents and their families in Pakistan. Following his abduction and subsequent release by intelligence agencies, Azhar was forced to flee the country. However, the military-backed government did not spare his family in Pakistan. Their home was raided multiple times by plainclothed officials who brazenly abducted Azhar's 73-year-old father and his brothers on 2 separate occasions within a few months. Azhar's brother was forcibly disappeared and remained missing for over 9 agonizing months, leaving the family in a state of unbearable distress. Azhar's family members were placed on the exit control list, ECL, effectively imprisoning them within Pakistan. His wife, who had no political affiliations, was offloaded from a flight. In June 2024, Azhar's 2 brothers, Mazhar and Zahoor Mashwani, were abducted once again. To this day, authorities continue to pressure Azhar, threatening his family's safety unless he remains silent. In September 2024, security forces launched an unprecedented and violent attack on the country's parliament, arresting several PTI lawmakers from inside the National Assembly building, an act that is deemed unlawful and unconstitutional. The forces cut off the electricity, plunging the entire parliament into darkness, and then stormed the building with overwhelming force, brazenly disregarding the sanctity of the legislative institution. PTI lawmakers, including PTI's acting chairman Gohar Khan, were manhandled, dragged out of the parliament, and taken into police custody. They were subjected to physical intimidation, and several were detained without due process. This blatant assault on the heart of democracy marked a dark day for Pakistan. In October 2024, Imran Khan's sisters Alima Khan and Uzma Khan were arrested as soon as they arrived at Islamabad's D Chowk for a peaceful protest called by Imran Khan. This was yet another politically motivated act by the military-backed regime to exert pressure on him. Alima Khan, who used to meet Imran Khan regularly and disseminate his message to the public, posed a threat to the military establishment as her influence was significant. The regime attempted to keep them behind bars as long as possible by pressuring judges to delay her hearings and extend her physical remand, all without any legitimate charges. In October 2024, the fascist military regime abducted prominent lawyer Intizar Hussain Panjota, a vital member of Imran Khan's legal team. Panjota was taken without any legal justification, in blatant violation of constitutional rights, and his whereabouts were concealed for weeks. The primary aim of this abduction was to disrupt the flow of Imran Khan's messages to the public, as Panjota, being Imran Khan's counsel in several cases, met him regularly and conveyed his unfiltered messages to the people. He was subjected to extreme physical and mental torture, kept in dire conditions, and stripped of basic human dignity. On November 2nd, 2024, after 25 days of disappearance, Panjota was discovered during a police operation. The operation appeared to be a staged drama attempting to frame his abduction as a kidnapping rather than an act orchestrated by military intelligence. Panjota was found blindfolded, his hands and legs tied, in a severely deranged and mentally fragile state. He could barely speak and had no recollection of how he ended up there. Witnessing a lawyer of his stature in such a devastating condition was a powerful testament to the regime's ruthless and oppressive tactics. On October 5th, 2024, in a shocking display of lawlessness, police, rangers, and intelligence agents attacked the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa KP house in Islamabad, leaving a trail of destruction and chaos. The attackers vandalized the entire premises, smashing furniture, damaging property, and wreaking havoc in a place meant to represent the dignity of an entire province. Several staff members were forcibly arrested without any legal justification or procedure. The assailants also targeted the provincial government's vehicles parked at KP house, breaking windows and causing significant damage. To make matters worse, the chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Ali Amin Gandapur, went missing shortly after the attack. He had been leading a convoy of PTI supporters into the city when he disappeared while visiting the KP house during the raid. This entire incident appeared to be a desperate attempt by the military-backed regime to prevent the convoy of thousands of PTI supporters from reaching the protest venue in Islamabad. On November 26th, security forces opened live gunfire targeting unarmed protesters marching into the capital city of Islamabad near Dichok on Imran Khan's final call. The Islamabad massacre became one of the darkest chapters in Pakistan's history as security forces unleashed direct gunfire on unarmed civilians, resulting in 14 confirmed fatalities and hundreds injured. Many more were reported missing and feared dead, with the government refusing to release the bodies and confiscating all hospital records. Eyewitnesses described snipers initiating intermittent firing from 2 p.m. onwards, culminating in a final brutal assault under the cover of darkness later that evening. The government labeled this as a grand operation against PTI protests, with several government ministers openly issuing live threats, vowing to end the protest in mere minutes with a shower of bullets. The violence continued throughout the night. Rangers were seen destroying vehicles belonging to protesters. The main PTI leadership container was also set on fire. Footage circulated widely, showing police and paramilitary troops violently suppressing civilians during the day with heavy shelling and rubber bullets and direct firing through snipers strategically placed on top of the high-rise buildings. On November 26, 2024, when shooting began during the daytime near Dichok, people urgently started transporting the injured to nearby hospitals, primarily Polyclinic and PIMS Hospital. Eyewitnesses and hospital staff confirmed that a significant number of injured arrived throughout the day. As firing intensified, the flow of wounded increased, and ground reporters and citizens began documenting the horrifying scenes. Social media started filling up with horrifying footage of gunshot injured and dead bodies of peaceful protesters. One journalist, Saqib Bashir, released an initial report from Polyclinic Hospital confirming 2 fatalities and at least 26 individuals with gunshot wounds. However, he was later abducted and hospital records were confiscated. Security forces subsequently took full control over the hospitals, seizing all medical documentation to suppress evidence. Any journalists who attempted to investigate the deceased or the injured faced abduction or intimidation. Journalist Matiullah Jan visited hospitals after November 26th to gather data on the number of casualties but was arrested on fabricated charges. He was detained to prevent further investigation, effectively concealing the true scale of deaths and injuries during the Islamabad massacre. During the Islamabad protests at Dichok, a deeply disturbing incident unfolded when a man engaged in prayer was brutally pushed off of a stack of containers by Pakistan Army personnel. This act of aggression occurred amidst the protesters, with multiple eyes and cameras recording the live incident in horror. It highlighted the harsh tactics employed by security forces to suppress peaceful demonstrations. The man was peacefully praying when armed soldiers without provocation forcibly shoved him off the container, leaving many shocked and appalled by the blatant violation of human dignity and religious respect. Initially believed to be dead, the man miraculously survived the fall and was immediately taken to the hospital, where doctors confirmed he had fractures in his arms and other injuries, though he was out of danger. Right after the Islamabad massacre, a massive crackdown ensued on PTI, with thousands of Imran Khan's supporters unlawfully arrested and charged in fake FIRs. Many were kept in dire conditions, and numerous individuals were not even accounted for in an attempt to conceal the total number of arrests. This included a significant number of minors and even the brother of a martyr who was accompanying his brother's body for a burial. The security forces even attempted to arrest the injured with gunshot wounds from hospitals, forcing many to secretly flee to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa KPK for treatment. Police also arrested individuals who did not participate in the protest but were supporters of Imran Khan, identifying them by checking their phone content or any visible indication such as a PTI flag or sticker on their vehicles. The families of the martyrs faced immense resistance and harassment from hospital authorities and security forces deployed at the hospitals when trying to claim the bodies of their loved ones. Some were forced to sign affidavits promising to remain silent, falsely stating that the deceased had no connection to the protest and that the death was an accident rather than caused by a gunshot. Families who attempted to file police reports against the shooters were subjected to further harassment, threats, and even arrests. The family of 20-year-old martyr Anis Shahzad Sati managed to file a report and request a postmortem post-mortem report for their deceased loved one. However, in response, authorities abducted Anisa's brother and cousin to pressure the family into withdrawing their report, which they ultimately did under duress. Another PTI supporter, Ahmed Wali, came all the way from Balochistan to participate in the Islamabad protest on Imran Khan's call. He was struck by a bullet from security forces and died on the spot. Following his death, Ahmed Wali's family faced threats and harassment, pressuring them into silence. The police raided the mosque where Ahmed Wali's family and friends had gathered to recite the Quran in his memory. Police officers pointed guns at the mourners, abusing his father and other family members. The police kicked mourners out of the mosque and threatened to urinate on Ahmed Wali's grave and verbally abused his father, threatening them to stay silent. Following the Islamabad massacre on November 26, 2024, reports surfaced of intensified racial profiling against Pashtun individuals in Islamabad and Rawalpindi. Human rights lawyers documented over 2,000 cases of Pashtun students, laborers, and street vendors, including legal Afghan refugees, being arrested and detained in police stations across both cities. Among those detained was a 14-year-old boy who sold clothes to support his family. Human rights activist and lawyer Iman Mazari confirmed that police officials had been systemically racially profiling and detaining Pashtuns by checking their IDs at checkpoints. Individuals whose permanent addresses were listed in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa were arbitrarily arrested and implicated in fabricated FIRs. Federal ministers Atta Tarar and Mohsin Naqvi ridiculously implied that most of the protesters were Afghan nationals and Pashtuns, and by extension, terrorists. These baseless statements intensified the racial profiling, leading to the arrest of innocent Pashtuns to propagate the fascist government's propaganda. In January 2025, the Shahbaz Sharif-led National Assembly passed a controversial amendment to the country's cybercrime laws amid a walkout by PTI lawmakers and journalists from the proceedings. This draft was titled the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Amendment Bill 2025. Journalists staged a walkout from the press gallery in protest of the bill's passage after it was presented by a federal minister from PMLN. The PICA amendment became a symbol of authoritarianism and an assault on digital and civil liberties in Pakistan. Bushra Bibi, the wife of former Prime Minister Imran Khan, became a central target of political victimization to pressure Imran Khan into striking a deal with the establishment. She was dragged into baseless and fabricated legal cases, including the infamous Iddat case, which accused her of contracting marriage with Imran Khan during her Iddat period, a ridiculous claim that lacked credible evidence and was widely seen as a mockery of justice and a collapse of moral values for political gain. Despite being a private citizen with no political involvement, Bushra Bibi was repeatedly harassed by authorities, subjected to investigations, and vilified in the media. The establishment's use of deeply personal and intrusive tactics reflected a desperate attempt to break Imran Khan's resolve and force him into submission. Imran Khan, in his messages from jail, repeatedly emphasized that Bushra Bibi had nothing to do with politics and was being targeted solely to pressure him. On January 17, 2025, Imran Khan was sentenced to 14 years in prison in the highly controversial and politically motivated Al-Qadr Trust case. His wife, Bushra Bibi, was also handed a 7-year sentence despite having absolutely nothing to do with the cabinet's approval of the $190 million to be transferred to Pakistan, which was the basis of the entire narrative in this farcical case. The trial was conducted inside a prison rather than in an open court, away from public scrutiny, and was expedited in a manner that deprived Khan of his basic right to a fair trial. Despite Imran Khan and Bushra Bibi being mere trustees of the Al-Qadr University with no evidence of personal financial gain, the military-backed government fabricated a narrative accusing Imran Khan of benefiting from the trust land allotment and unlawfully transferring funds to the Supreme Court's account. The decision in question was approved collectively by the entire cabinet during Imran Khan's tenure, and Bushra Bibi had no involvement in the proceedings. Singling out Khan and his wife is yet another indication of the military regime's desperation to keep him incarcerated by manipulating the judicial system to serve its own political agenda. In March 2025, another crackdown began on social media activists and ground workers. Many went missing, abducted from their homes in front of their families by intelligence agents. The courts appeared completely helpless in recovering them, as the 26th Amendment had severely curtailed their powers. Citizens were left at the mercy of the state to endure this injustice. Mothers, wives, and children of the abducted took to social media, pleading with the judiciary to help bring their loved ones back, while sharing horrifying accounts of unlawful nighttime raids and abductions. In April 2025, Imran Khan's sisters and party members were repeatedly barred from meeting him, despite multiple court orders permitting such visits. Week after week, on designated family meeting days, they were stopped outside Adiala jail and made to wait for hours, only to be arrested alongside other PTI workers and leaders. With no charges filed, the authorities would eventually abandon them in remote, deserted areas, an act clearly meant to harass and intimidate. This cycle continued for weeks in blatant defiance of court orders. On both family and political meeting days, the roads leading to Adiala jail would be blocked off by police. When questioned, police officials would simply state, "We have orders from above," a clear indication of the military establishment's role in isolating Imran Khan from his family and party. These actions not only violated his fundamental rights, but also showed a complete disregard for constitutional and legal norms. More than 20 articles of the Constitution of Pakistan were violated following the regime change operation. The Constitution guarantees fundamental human rights for every citizen, including the security of the person, Article 9, the right to a fair trial, Article 10A, freedom of assembly, Article 15, freedom of speech, Article 19, and the inviolability of the dignity of the man, Article 14. All these rights were stripped away from the people of Pakistan by the military-backed regime in an attempt to prolong their illegitimate hold on power. All of this is just the tip of the iceberg. Since the regime change in April 2022, human rights violations across Pakistan have reached alarming levels. A former prime minister and the country's largest political party are facing unprecedented suppression, with millions of workers and supporters suffering under a system that silences dissent with every means possible. The story of Pakistan under the current military-backed regime is one of deep injustice and sorrow. It is time for international human rights organizations and global champions of democracy to raise their voices and stand with the people of Pakistan.